Well, welcome, Casey. We're excited to have you with us today.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
It was fun how you and I actually met. I mean, there I was at the restaurant. You had just taken a job, probably just to get by, because you're very creative, and I know that you're now looking now that you're out of college, and so who knows? Maybe somebody will watch the podcast and go, "That's a guy I want to work with me," right? Because let's face it, your path to the University of Texas swim team, well, it was very unconventional. And when you were telling me this, I just thought everybody needs to understand what perseverance and everything looks like, how not knowing where you were going to all of a sudden being at the University of Texas. So tell us about that.
Right. So it's important to know that I grew up in a suburb outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I didn't grow up somewhere where necessarily sports, let alone swimming, was something that everybody did and that everybody knew about. Now, I live here in Austin now, and Austin and Texas even is almost known as a swimming place, you know? There are good swimmers in Texas. That's always been the case. That's always going to be the case. And as a young kid in Pittsburgh, I knew that and I wanted to be in Texas. But again, I was in a little suburb. I was swimming with my high school team. We didn't have big clubs like we have down here in Austin. And um, my biggest issue was always my size. I was tall, I was skinny, and those are the two words that most people would describe me as during my young swimming career. Um, and so I felt like I had odds kind of stacked against me in terms of getting to Texas. I was very fortunate with my own swimming career. Um, I enjoyed swimming in Pennsylvania. I think I had great success in Pennsylvania, and I was ready to stay in Pennsylvania or maybe a neighboring state. But Texas was never really in my sights because I think of myself as a very realistic person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I knew that I was getting good, I was getting faster, but I was getting taller and I wasn't gaining any weight. So I was getting skinnier and skinnier. And I ultimately got to Texas because of that.
Well, now
And
wait, let's stop right there because
sure,
you weren't even looking at Texas.
no, no, I wasn't.
So
I,
who got you excited about Texas? I mean, you were excited about it. You
right.
just didn't think you'd ever make it.
100%. So I was always excited about Texas. I was always following what Texas was doing. And when I say Texas, I mean the University of Texas, not
Yeah.
everyone in the state, right? It's a big state. Um, I was always following them. I was always a fan, and it was always a dream, but a dream in the same way that I wanted to swim in the Olympics growing up. Like every swimmer, every young swimmer dreams of swimming in the Olympics, right? It's not the most popular sport. Every 4 years, it gets a lot of coverage because of the Olympics. And so for us growing up, professional athletics isn't something that is usually considered. Um, and the Olympics are your one shot to get on TV and for your friends to finally see why you're missing all of these hangouts and why you can't go to dinners and why you can't hang out after school. Um, so it was always on my radar, but it was my mom that got me into it. My mom sent an email for me. No, I'm wrong. My mom did not send an email for me. My mom made a phone call. My mom, who remained pretty hands off during my recruiting process when I was in high school and I was starting to think about where I wanted to swim in college, my dad kind of took the reins. My dad made a lot of calls for me, sent a lot of emails for me, and my mom stood back. The one thing that she did was she Googled the name of the head coach at Texas, said, okay, Eddie Reese,
Yes.
Googled Eddie Reese phone number.
Oh.
Like, okay, I could have done that, but nothing's going to come of that. Well, something did come of it. she called him, he answered, and they talked about me for what I've been told is about 20 minutes. Um, Talked about some of my best swims, some of my fastest races, and he asked how much I weighed. And she told him, and I ended up getting on a phone call with Eddie Reese after school that day. That was a Thursday, I believe. Um, I was sitting in orchestra class playing my cello, and I got a text from my mom that was a screenshot from Eddie Reese that said, have him call me after school. I'd love to chat. And
Okay.
I got up. Sorry?
What happened right there? I mean, you're in orchestra, you're playing your cello, you get
Mm-hmm.
this text. Okay, what happened to your body? Did you like go, really? Is this real?
Um, my palms got really sweaty. I can remember that vividly, that the grip I had on my bow, the bow was sweaty, and my fingers, like I wasn't really trying to play anymore, but I remember my hands like sliding down the fingerboard. Just, I was in shock. I was in shock because when I get a text from my mom, you know, the last thing I'm expecting, especially at this point in my life, was something to do with college recruiting. That was my dad's show. That was
Yeah.
something that he and I did together. And so 100% out of left field, didn't expect it. Um, I had to get up in the middle of the song and go walk outside in the hallway and just look at that email. And I was looking to see who the sender was, look at the email address. Like, is my mom getting scammed? What is going on? You know? Um, but it was legitimate. And I called him. I went to practice after school, and then I went home, and we had a little pool in our backyard growing up, and with a tiny little diving board that I always thought was going to break every summer. And I sat on the end of the diving board with my feet in the water, and it's, for whatever reason now, one of the most vivid memories of my life is sitting there talking to Eddie Reese and him addressing me by name and seeming excited to talk to me. I mean, this is the most decorated swim coach, arguably the most decorated college coach of all time. Um, it was never something that I thought I had going for me. And he told me point blank, he said, you go times that big boys go. I'll make you big and you'll be fast enough to swim for me then.
So your mom actually calls the coach.
Mm-hmm.
Why did he ask how much you weighed? I'm curious.
There's so much more than the times that they go in their best events, how fast they swim in their best events. There's so much more than that. Has this person been a part of a club has this person ever lifted weights before? Have this person ever done anything outside of the pool before? Yes, they do a lot of weights. Okay, then they're good. That's great. But we see the same kid who has very similar best events, very similar times that they swim, how fast they are. And you look at this kid who's from somewhere in the middle of Ohio, who has 3 other kids on his team with him and has never lifted a weight in his life. I want him, you know, because that's more untapped potential. I want that kid who's never started doing that, because if he can go this fast and he's never lifted up a weight before, imagine what we can do if we put him on this weights. It's everything outside of the pool is called dry land. So it's kind of silly, but imagine if we get this kid doing a dry land routine 5 days a week. Imagine how fast he could be. And so that was kind of my case, where I was really skinny. I had done some weights, some dry land when I was in high school, but not much. Um, and I never considered that in my journey to like finding a school. I never considered that that was something that I should highlight about myself. Um, but Eddie, the coach of Texas, saw that in me and saw that he's pretty good right now. He's not fast enough for me. I'm talking about myself. He's not fast enough for me right now, but give me a year with him, and I bet there's something there. And that's never a guarantee. You never know. Like when I'm looking at these kids recruiting them, I never know because what if they've never lifted a weight, but what if they have no work ethic? What if it's natural talent and as soon as it gets hard, they bail? You know, there's a lot that goes into finding
Yeah,
talent, you know.
the recruiting part is is a talent in itself. I mean, I
It's
love the
hard.
fact that you said the untapped potential, and he saw untapped potential in you,
Hmm.
and somewhat took a chance. Yet, was it really a chance because you had perseverance, you had determination, all these things were showing up, and you helped them win three national championships, and that's no
Right.
small feat. I mean, what was the defining moment in your journey through all of this?
Um, my defining moment, that's hard to say. When you say defining moment, like the moment I
Maybe
knew I was going to be able to swim at Texas, be a part of that group, or the moment that I knew like I earned my spot, I did what he needed me to do.
oh, it's a great question. See, to me, it's that you solidified that belief in yourself that you actually belong to the team.
Right. Right. And that was hard. Um, like I said, I had a fairly successful career before college, just in high school in the like Pennsylvania swimming sphere.
Yeah.
I did pretty well. So I had opportunities to swim at a number of universities for a lot less money
Yeah.
and be able to immediately show up on that team and make an impact and be someone that is on relay squads at the end of the season, who is swimming in relays at these big important meets. You know, relays are only four guys. There's way more than four guys on the team, and we all want to be on a relay, you know? So I had opportunities to swim at schools where I would immediately make an impact on the team, but I chose the one school really that I was considering where if there's a totem pole, I'm in the dirt, like I'm on the ground, you know?
Yeah, that proof right there you have perseverance. You didn't want to take the easy route. You took the route that, well, actually, it was the most challenging route that
100%.
you can. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, it
Well,
was the furthest from home. It was the most, I mean, none of the schools I was considering and the coaches that I've been having conversations with about why they want me to go there, none of these conversations included someone saying, "Yeah, you can come here, but you might never win." That's what Eddie told me. That's what Eddie
wow.
told me on the phone. Is he said, basically, you're a project. We love to have you. There's not much money for you. Um, and you might never win a race here. It's your call. Let me know what you want to do.
Okay, so I know that the listeners are just wondering
Sure.
why? Why Texas then, knowing that you may never make the team? You're going to go there. You have to spend a lot more money. You're going to be further away from home. Why Texas over all these other schools that, man, you were in like Flynn. You were going to make the team. You were going to be one of the top people.
Immediately, my answer is I wanted to do it for my younger self. Um, because, I mean, let's be honest, seniors in high school
Yeah.
are kids,
Yeah.
very much kids. I was a kid and I was proud of my career and I was ready to do more. Um, and if you give anyone who spends at the time I had put in 13 years when I was ending high school. I had swam for 13 years. 13 years of really deciding that I wanted to be good. Not going to the pool and splashing with my friends. Like 13 years after the day I showed up
Oh.
to a workout and I said I'm not doing this anymore if I'm not going to be good. So anyone who does something with that kind of mentality and that kind of I'm not playing around here anymore. This is fun. This is where all my friends are, but I'm going to make this difficult because that's how you get good
Yes.
kind of mentality. You give anyone who has done that the opportunity to be a part of the pinnacle of that thing that they've been doing. I have to imagine they're going to take it. I had to take it. I didn't feel like I had a choice. I felt like I was so young, maybe 11, 9 years old when I made that decision that this is fun and this is a game, but I'm going to do this as if it's my job and I'm going to see how far I can take this. It had been so long of that when I was 18 years old and I went to go visit Austin and visit Eddie Reese and meet this guy who met me at the airport. He said, "Hi, I'm Will Lacone." I knew that name. He was the American record holder in my best event, in the event that I swam the best. He was the best in the country at it. And he's going to be my teammate. I'm going to share a place with him someday. Like, I didn't feel like I had a choice. I didn't feel like I had a choice.
Were you like awestruck when you met
Yeah.
him? I mean, like, here's your hero,
Yeah.
somebody that you look up to. And so now you meet your new coach and you've committed to this intense training program that they're putting you on. And what was the transition like?
Hard. Hard, but delayed. There was an immediate response to the transition that I had maybe a week into my first year. I had lived with my parents the week before, and now I'm at practice in Austin with my new teammates. I had just finished a pretty tough workout. I got out. There was maybe 10 minutes left of the workout. The guys were just easy cooling down, getting their heart rates down before they leave. And I was freaking out. It was way harder than I thought it was going to be. I thought that when I was in high school, I had the hardest workouts ever. I can do any kind of swim practice. I'm tough. No. I got there, and within the first week, I had to get out, and I told Eddie, I got out of the pool, and I said, I'm just going to run to the restroom real quick. And went to the locker room, and I took my goggles off, and like tears came out of them. Not because I was sad, not because I was feeling like far from home or like in over my head. It was just the natural, almost like, what's the word? Emergency response. That during that workout, I had no idea it was going to be that hard. And I just, maybe back home where I would have taken a second and stopped on the wall and told my coach, hey, why is this so hard? Is when I'm in college, I can't do that. So I was just head down, getting through it, and it overwhelmed me. And I remember looking in the mirror and I was like, you can do this. Like telling myself, like,
So you talked to yourself, you gave
right,
yourself a pep
right.
talk.
You did not come all this way for a week in to say it's too hard. Like, and I was panicking, but then I settled into the training. I settled into the structure of being a Division I student athlete. And the time that it really hit me was my freshman year was 2016. So there was that was an Olympic year.
Yes.
I got to swim at the Olympic trials because of the work that I put in my freshman year in Texas. I don't think I would have made it if I didn't do that first. So I got to go to that trials meet, and then I told Eddie, I said, I need to go home for 2 weeks. I'm having a hard time. That summer was amazing. I've always wanted to swim at that meet. Thank you so much for getting me there. I'm going to go home for 2 weeks, and I'll be back for next season. And no one else did that on the team. No one else needed to do that. I needed to do that. And when I got back after my break in Pittsburgh, when I got back to Austin, was when I really, really struggled. And just the thought of the highs and lows of my first year and how fun it was. And we won a national championship that year and how incredible that was. Little reset. And now do it again. Because even with all the highs, it was the hardest year. I had no idea it was going to be that hard. No idea.
So this perseverance, this trait that you have, I mean, that's what separates champions from the rest of the group, right? When you faced all those setbacks, what was it that kept pushing you forward? What inside of you? What did you have to talk to yourself in the mirror like that one
Yeah.
time? You can do this, right?
Yeah, and you also have to remember that swimming is not a social sport.
No.
I mean, outside of the pool, yeah, they're my best friends in the whole world. They know everything about me. I know everything about them. We do everything together. We compete together. But unless you live with some of those guys, the majority of the time that you spend with them is with little reflective goggles on
Mm-hmm.
and your face is in the water, not looking at each other, looking at a black line on the bottom of the pool. So I it sounds so cheesy, but I think I know a lot of people in my life who could really have benefited from the time that I spent with myself growing up swimming. You know what I mean? Who I think could really benefit with that time with themselves. Like really just sitting and thinking and getting to know yourself. I spent I don't want to know how many hours
Mm.
with all the workouts I've ever done, just with my head down, holding my breath, looking at some black tiles, and thinking to myself, like, we don't have music, we don't have, you can talk to your friends in between laps, but I, there's a lot of self motivation, there's a lot of getting to know yourself, there's a lot of thinking, is this worth it? Like, I'm spending so much time here. Like, I could be doing anything else. And especially when you're 20, 21 years old and starting to do it in college, and you don't have to be doing it anymore. Like,
Right.
you're making your life harder by on your own will. I mean, it is super rewarding, but my life would have been so much easier if I could have just gone to school and been a student, you know? But you
Yeah.
think a lot. You get to know yourself really well, and you really get to, if you don't really want to be doing it, you don't do it. So you don't see people at the level in college that don't really want to be there because at that point in your career, you've had way more than enough time to come to terms with that if that's not what you want to be doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's like in football, you have the huddle, you're working
Mm-hmm.
together, somebody's throwing you the pass. In swimming, you're just right there. Like you
Yeah.
said, you're all alone, you're not listening to music, you're
Yeah.
staring at the tiles of the pool. Yet creativity has to play a lot into that and overcoming the obstacles. So can you share a time where the creativity, that creative side of you, which is very alive, I saw that when I met you, when when did that give you the edge of your training or maybe in the competitive world?
I would. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I think I have an answer. I'm just trying to
That's okay. Take your
think how
time.
I'm going to say it to make it make the most sense. Because it's one of those things that I've spent a lot of time thinking about on my own that I'm not sure if I know the way to properly explain it. I think I've said this before that I think when you get to a really high level of any sport, when you get to the pinnacle of any sport, Olympics, those athletes are often, more often than not, also really, really smart and really intelligent people. You see a lot of Olympians who were Stanford graduates. You see a lot of those guys that I had a teammate, one of my best friends in the world. His name is Andrew Wilson. Um, Made the Tokyo Olympic team in the 100 breaststroke.
Hmm.
Uh, when he got back from the meet, started going to grad school in at Oxford University,
Oh,
studying math. He's brilliant. He's a nerd, really, and I love him so much. You know what I mean? Like he's brilliant, and I think creativity and intelligence, and kind of, I'm going to spin creativity to be more of like a thinking differently about your sport, about what you do. And I think, to answer your question, a lot of people get really good at swimming and then they plateau. And I think the people who proceed past that plateau, surpass that, and reach these levels that make Olympic teams that are like few and far between, it takes a lot of, okay, I hear my coach telling me to do this. He's told me to do this every day for 6 months. I got it. What if I tried this instead? And a lot of times that contradicts what your coach is telling you to do, but you just have to, you have a feel for what is right and what your body can do. And I hope this makes sense, is that after all the years that I've swam, I got all of my critiquing, all of my coaching about technically how to swim by my high school coach. When I was in college, hardly any technical critique. It was a lot of really hard workouts and conditioning, and they were incredible at that. But I didn't get much critique, and I didn't get much, hey, try having your elbows higher here. Try really getting your fingertips down and grabbing the water, or slide your hand out here a little bit. You're a little bit inside. Little tips like that. I didn't get many of those in college, but watching myself from my first season of college to my last swim, it's a different person. It's not the same person swimming. It looks different. I'm doing different technique, and that came from this subconscious kind of creativity of, I guess, like figuring out what works better in tiny, tiny little increments. And sometimes, like, coaches can only take you so far. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? I'm sorry.
No, it does. Because here's one of the things, our body never lies to us.
No.
Body tells us what's going on. Our mind can lie to us, right?
Right.
You're not good enough, you'll never make it, all those kind of things. Yet our body doesn't lie. And so the creativity, I loved what you said, is sometimes in college they're not telling you to do these little things, yet you know it. You instinctively, your body is telling you that. And for those listening, you swam the breaststroke, right?
Yes.
And now that requires a unique combination of strength, of timing, of technique. So when you were saying these little things that you did, we're talking about refining the stroke. I mean, it's the same stroke for everybody, right?
Yes. And at the same time, absolutely not. No. Breaststroke is the perfect example. I've said this as a swimmer, and I've said this as a coach to kids that I've coached over the years. If you have a pool of 100 people and they're all swimming freestyle, or they're all swimming butterfly, they're going to look very similar. There's going to be a couple oddballs that look a little funky when they swim, look like they're crawling maybe, but it works for them. And that's kind of their signature. You see, like, do you know the name Katie Ledecky?
Yes.
She's the best distance swimmer of all time. She swam at Stanford for 2 years, and then she went pro. Katie Ledecky swims the 800 freestyle amongst all the other freestyle events. She's good at all of them, but her 800 is really her money spot, I think. If you watch her swim that race, she doesn't use her legs hardly at all until the last 200 meters, maybe 150 meters. She does this thing, it's called a 2-beat kick, where for every 2 strokes, like 1, 2, 1, 2, she's kicking twice. So she's foot, foot, foot. She's barely kicking.
Wow.
But then with 150 meters to go, she flips, and you think she's just swam 650 meters. She's tired, I'm sure. She comes off the wall and just, like, white water behind her. She's been saving her legs. She has all of them, and that's how she finishes her races. Most people can't do that. That doesn't
I've
work
never noticed
for
that.
most
I've
people.
watched her swim. Now, see, that's the difference between a professional and
Right,
somebody that doesn't even know. I'm
right,
just cheering her on, right? I
right,
have no
100%. But as someone who watches and is in this world, you say, "Oh, look at the catch on that guy. Look at the way that look at the way that this guy's hand comes out the back of his stroke." Like everyone does things a little bit differently, and you can't look at one person and say, "Oh, do you see how high his hips are? We have to do that." Because it probably likely won't work for you.
idea.
You have to figure that out on your own, and that's where the creativity comes from. Is you have no idea what you're really going to be good at when you explore every option of technique, and there's endless options. So that's what I mean when I say the people who are at the best, who are at the highest point in the sport, are just the people who I think have exhausted most of their options and have explored everything and kind of taken that. They didn't have a coach tell them to do all that. They had a coach that guided them, but that is all up there.
Well,
And
it's very much a physical sport, yet it's a very much a mental sport.
absolutely,
Some
absolutely.
people may think that we're just talking about swimming here. We're actually talking about life and how we get through it.
Mm-hmm.
So give us some ideas, because I know in my book I talk about the four storytellers that we have in our mind: the devious one that tells us how we can't do it, we're not good enough; the flattering one that says, "Oh, you're so good, you don't need to change"; the reasonable one that says, "Hey, it's all their fault. You have lots of excuses,
Yep.
lots of reasons as to why it didn't work." Then you have the empowering one, the one that actually empowers you, that builds that desire to be better. When did you experience those storytellers? And can you share with us some of the things you did to get rid of that devious storyteller?
I think every single one of those storytellers in like I see every single one of them at one point in a swimmer's career, and it happens every year. Hopefully you train really hard and you get to the end of the season and you have your big meet that you've been training all season for, and you absolutely smash it. Heck yeah, that's what we're here for, right? Then you have practice on Monday. Then you go back to the pool. Okay, well, I just spent 10 months trying to do what I just did on Saturday. Did y'all see it? Like, I did it.
Yeah.
What do you mean practice on Monday? What do you mean we have to go back and we have to just hit the pool again and keep training? And I think the storyteller is the empowering one is what you did on Saturday, is that thing that you achieved, that you've been working for so long. There was another one that you said,
I had the reasonable, the flattering, and the devious.
okay, so flattering is also that weekend. You feel amazing after you finally achieve what you've been wanting to achieve. The devious
Yes.
is when you go back to practice on Monday and you think, the next chance I have to do that again is in 10 more months. That was the best I could possibly do. I worked so hard. I know that was the best I could do. But it's not the best you can do, because you have 10 more months to do it again. And you better be better, because we're not doing this another 10 months and not being better. And so grappling with I just want to break. I want to celebrate what I just did and not have the immediate. I mean, I can remember touching the wall in a race, looking at the scoreboard and seeing the exact time that I wanted. And before I even get out of the pool, I'm thinking, how am I possibly going to beat that? Because I have another 3 years of eligibility.
Yeah,
I'm
I
under
mean,
contract here.
yeah,
I have to do this another 3 times.
and you have to do it better.
And I have to do it better.
Yeah.
And not because my coach is telling me to do it better, because I'm 22 years old and I'm not doing this anymore if I'm not going to be better. You know what I mean?
You're out of the race if you're not being better,
And
right?
so you have all of these voices when you get to a certain point, when you get to a certain age, and you've been doing this for so long, they're happening all at once, all the time, kind of,
Wow.
if that makes sense. You
No, it
know,
makes perfect sense, Casey. And so what advice do you have, whether it be to a swimmer who may not have that traditional path, like you didn't have one, yet they want to be part of a team? What advice do you have for them?
reach out before your mom does. Eddie might have, I might have had an even easier walk on if I had made that phone call instead of my mom. Um, I was afraid of the rejection, which is so stupid. I was afraid that I was reaching out to all of these colleges, and I was so excited that every one of them was an option for me. That I had all of them coming back saying, "Yes, we'd like to have you. We have a spot for you." I didn't want to reach out to Texas because I knew nine
Mm.
times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, reaching out to Texas, I'm not going to get the attention that they're not going to look at me. They're not going to see me. They're not going to,
You'd already convinced yourself that devious
100%.
storyteller was
100%.
alive in your mind. Now, we're talking about swimming. We're also talking about business, though, because
Sure.
a lot of people, especially in sales, they won't reach out to certain people because they don't want to be rejected.
Right. Right. That's a really good point you bring up because, like you mentioned, I'm working a job right now that I consider just something that I picked up it's a stepping stone, right? We've all had stepping stones. We're all going to have more stepping stones. Um, I've been reaching out to dozens and dozens of companies and organizations and offices, and I've never, until very recently, like I've never gotten more rejection in my entire life as I am right now in my life. And guess what? I'm okay. It's okay. You know,
You're
I
still alive.
understand, and maybe I'm a little bit more mature and I'm a little bit more understanding how the world works, and that rejection is not something you should avoid because I got lucky. I got lucky. And I was given a spot to do what I've always wanted to do, but I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have been because
The
I
odds
had
were
made up my mind
against you.
that it wasn't going to happen for me.
The odds were against you.
The odds were
Your mother had faith. You
she
didn't
did.
want to be rejected, but your mom knew. And moms know how great we are. Sometimes we don't want to listen to our moms. Being a mom
Right.
myself, they go, "Oh, you're just saying that because you're my mom."
Sure.
No, moms know the greatness that's inside of their kids. And so now that you've achieved so much in sports, what's your dream? What's your dream job that you'd like to have?
Have you ever seen Parks and Recreation?
Yes.
Yeah, with Amy Poehler and Nick Offerman. Um, Ron Swanson, his character is very dramatic and a very blown up version of this kind of lifestyle that I would love to live. Like if you've seen the whole show, he finishes the entire series because Leslie Knope got him a job working in a national park as like the head ranger of the park or something.
Yes.
And he like whittled his own canoe, and he takes his canoe out on the lake in this park, and he's just paddling along,
Yes.
talking to bears and making sure that nobody's like endangering his park. I went to college for environmental science and fire ecology. There was a huge, and there still is today, emphasis on how do we get our country to stop burning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything is burning, and it's getting scarier and more dangerous, and people are losing their homes. And I mean, it just happened. Um,
Right.
and
In LA.
sorry,
I said in LA, we just had
it
this
just
happen.
happened, and that's what I wanted to do. Um, I need to go to grad school if I really want to do that because I was frustrated that I couldn't get a job doing that before when I graduated, but I understand now that if your county or your district is burning, you're not going to go on LinkedIn and look for the fresh college grads to come help you. You're looking for the people who have been doing this and know what they're doing. And I understand that now. Um, but that's ultimately, I would love to do some kind of Ron Swanson-esque um, conservation, some kind of research. Maybe I did research in Botswana in Africa when I graduated. I was there for 4 months, and it was the best 4 months of my life. Best 4 months of my life, just studying plants and vegetation and stuff. And if I could make that my job, absolutely, that's what I would do.
Well,
Absolutely.
I just trust that whoever is listening to this, whoever is watching this on YouTube, if you know of someone, have them reach out to Casey. And Casey, how would they get in touch with you?
Geez, I don't know if I want to put my phone number out here or an
Do you
email.
want to put an email? Do you have
Sure.
email, Instagram, Facebook, any of those?
Yeah, I can
Let's tell everybody then.
do it. Yeah, email is just my first name, Casey, the letter J, and then MELZ @gmail.com. My
And Casey is
Instagram,
with a C.
yes. My Instagram is @case_Melzer. I don't really have anything else. You can find me on LinkedIn, probably just with my name. I don't have the most common name. You could probably find me.
Well, and we'll put these we'll put them down below.
Sure.
If you know of someone that is really in need of someone that has great persistence, great determination, and a great college education that does not want to let people down, look
No.
below. You'll see all the links. Get in touch with Casey. And Casey,
Thank
I've
you.
got to tell you, thank you so very much. And for those of you who don't know, yes, I met Casey at a restaurant. As he said, it's just a stepping stone. I had that same stepping stone, Casey.
Mm-hmm.
You did a great job in serving
Thank you.
us. You cared about people. And it was so much fun to learn about you and to have you on this podcast, because what I've heard is, one, take a chance on yourself and don't be afraid of the rejection. You'll still live through it.
100%.
Whatever your coach says, do it. And if you have to go in the restroom and cry a little bit,
Right.
that's okay.
Right.
More importantly, give yourself that pep talk in the mirror, because I know I've had to do that, looking in the mirror. You're great.
Yeah.
You can do this. Get back out there and do it, right?
100%.
Yeah, and you're
100%.
a winner. You're a winner in everybody's book, and you've been a winner on this podcast.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
See you later.
Bye-bye.